Welcome to the third lesson on marketing and advertising in the first module of our segment for the Data Analytics in Business course. I'm Frederic Bien, and we'll talk today about an overview of digital ad market. So the learning objectives, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to understand and describe the general financial market and financial landscape of interactive advertising, explain the relative financial size of the different types of digital advertising, and point out potentially some opportunities for new products and new companies in the industry of digital advertising. So overall, so far we've covered in this series, we've talked about traditional advertising and marketing, an example of evolution of advertising companies, especially in the Atlanta market, overview of systems of digital advertising in general, and now I want to talk to you about the financial landscape or the market of digital advertising. We'll talk about display advertising, search engine, social media, and mobile advertising. And later on, we will talk in future lessons about how to build campaigns and buy media and optimize media campaigns. So this first slide is an old slide. It dates from 2006. The reason I put it in here is because I want you to realize that what has been amazing about digital advertising is how fast it has grown as an industry and how big it has become also, by the way. In 2005, people made a projection for video advertising to be in the US at the levels that you see in this slide. By 2006, they had revised their estimate with the red bars in the chart. So you can see from one year to the next, their optimistic projection became in fact conservative projection, and they had new optimistic projections that were even bigger. So where are we today, 14, 15 years later? If you want to know the latest, you can go to the IAB website, which is the Internet Advertising Bureau, and talks about quarterly, sometimes semi-annual reports, usually conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers in collaboration with IAB. And I'm going to present here some results from 2018. So here's the quarterly revenue growth trend from 1996, when web advertising essentially started, to 2018. You can see it grew from $30 million a quarter overall to $25 billion. So it's almost 1,000-fold growth, okay, in the space of about 22 years. You can see the little spikes there on the chart that represent the fourth quarter, and it shows you very clearly the fact that the advertising market is a seasonal market that tends to shoot up in the fourth quarter before holiday sales here in the US, as people get ready to buy presents for Christmas, Hanukkah, all the holidays of the end of the year. So how did it grow from 2017 to 2018 overall? So for half a year, it went from 40 billion to almost 50 billion. So a 23%, almost 25% year-over-year growth. Really phenomenal growth. So how does this look on the types of ads basis? So in the 46%, you have the search ads, the text ads that appear in search engine. You can see that it's almost half, and it's decreasing slightly. At the benefits of banner advertising or display advertising that continues to grow, and then video advertising is also growing, right? This chart doesn't take into account social media, so which can appear as potentially a banner ad or video ad. But you can see in the footnotes that it describes, the types of banners and the types of others that are included. Others containing things like classified ads, lead generation as well, which is a big category. And this is only revenue for half a year, like in the previous slide. Mobile advertising has been the new entrant, growing from the fact that we use our smartphones that are becoming smarter and smarter year by year. And today, mobile advertising has actually overtaken desktop advertising. So you can see that the shift happened right around 2016, 2017, when mobile viewing of ads became more lucrative than desktop viewing of ads. Now, overall, desktop viewing is not dead and will probably continue to grow somewhat. Tablets are included in the mobile sector, but overall, you have a huge, growth rate over these 10 years, 16.1% for the overall internet advertising, and a 57% in just the last 4 or 5 years for mobile advertising. So here's an example of a company that, of course, is very famous, Google. Its quarterly revenue is now $33.7 billion, with a net income of almost $10 billion per quarter. This explains why Google has such a high market cap, $854 billion as of today. Just in comparison, Bank of America, what is the market cap of Bank of America? If you don't know, pause this video for a second and look it up and compare with some of your favorite internet companies. You'll see that today the market cap of Bank of America is only $274 billion. So Google is more than 3 times larger. Okay. How is that possible when it seems that they are selling just free stuff, advertising? But advertising is not free. Okay, it appears free to the consumer, but actually is very valuable and therefore quite costly for businesses. Notice, that earning per share is pretty high for this company. They have very high profitability margin, and they have plenty of cash on hand. So they're continuing to invest, but sometimes they make so much money that they are not sure what to do with the money. In fact, that's how they get into new ventures like cable TV distribution, for instance. How is it looking for social media advertising? The half-year growth rate. Look at these numbers. From 2012, first half, second half, 1.2 to 1.7 billion. To today, in the tens of billions per half year to probably more the following half year. So in a short time, talking about 7 years, you may have a 50% nearly, accumulated growth rate. So no wonder that companies like Facebook also have huge multiples, even bigger than the ones of Google. Here are the quarterly financials for Facebook. Almost $17 billion per quarter as of a year ago. Net income, almost $7 billion. Net profit margin, 40% versus the 27% at Google. If you were to count the revenue per employee, you would have a phenomenal number. Probably $200,000 per employee in revenues, which is much higher, of course, than traditional companies like banks, for instance. So very robust operating income, lots of cash on hand, over $10 billion. The growth continues despite all the criticism. Because it is working, it is efficient, it is a great way for marketers to reach people and to know that they've reached them and influenced their behavior. How did the pricing model change? So overall, we have the CPM models that has decreased but still maintains itself, especially for display advertising. So a lot of ads still continue to be sold based on how many people are seeing the ads or actually seeing them here versus on TV where it was estimated to have been seen. Performance pricing model, which includes cost per click, is continuing to dominate the internet era since 2006 roughly, okay, which was, remember, Google started in 98, really started offering advertising around 2001, 2002, and then grew from there. So 2/3 roughly based on performance, cost per click, cost per lead, and 1/3 roughly on cost per 1,000 views, with some hybrid models, some deals being made with a combination of CPM and performance-based views or clicks. In this report from 2018, which I encourage you to look at, as well as other reports from IAB, you can find all kinds of interesting numbers. Year-to-date revenues, of course, showing strong growth. This Generation Z, after Generation X, Generation Y, now we're talking about Generation Z, which has been, of course, not only born online, but to a large extent born also with a cell phone. And soon it's going to be people who were born with a cell phone that could go online. They don't know anything else. So very robust quarterly growth. Now, one of the challenges is that there has been revenue concentration in the top 10 companies. Okay, so despite the effervescence of startups and the success even of some of these unicorns, there's a certain concentration in the top companies of about 3/4 of the market. And that is, potentially a risk for slowdown in innovation, I would say. Social media is very large, over $13 billion. And digital audio is growing as well as being robust. Okay. People are looking for new pricing models, and programmatic advertising is also continuing to grow, so that a lot of these ads are appearing in front of people without a human being actually making a decision to place it there today, but rather a computer making that decision for the human. So what comes next? Privacy and trust are the big challenges. How can we protect consumer privacy? How can we engage more trust and truth in advertising also? Especially true in social networks where the viral effects of distributing ads can be so prevalent that sometimes fake news can overtake true news. Right? So what are the big new opportunities? I encourage you to look at some articles. For instance, Time Magazine on January 28, 2019 has some great article on social media and Facebook in particular, and truth and trust and privacy. And then watch also the movie The Great Hack, a documentary on Netflix about Cambridge Analytica and its participation in Brexit's vote referendum and the 2016 US election. Cambridge Analytica was not the only company doing this. There were others, and still are others. Some do it in the legitimate fashion. Some went overboard. But as you know, the scandal, I would say, of these companies like Cambridge Analytica was somewhat on the same level potentially as the credit rating issues of 2006, 2007, where people rated mortgage-backed bonds to be, great bonds to invest in, and it turns out they were not so great to invest in. Millions of people lost money in the Great Recession of 2007, 2008. Nobody went to jail. It's not clear that anybody actually broke a law that existed, but it just created this effervescence that provided approval ratings for packages that maybe should not have been approved with that credit rating. And so today we need systems for creating trust that will limit companies that can potentially distribute wrong information or incorrect information or scandalous information that then influence purchase decisions or voting decisions. So we think that there's great opportunities there and hope that you will be able to take advantage of them, especially after learning more about marketing and advertising in data analysis and for business. In summary, in this module we have done traditional advertising and marketing, talked about evolution of advertising companies, especially also the systems for delivering digital ads from the advertiser to the media companies through an agency and a placement system. And we've talked about an overview of the digital advertising market. Thank you, and on to the next module where we'll talk about behavior analytics and how to put this in practice for media buying.